This used to be a free country, you communists. You're a communist.
I'm a communist. I'm a communist, yeah.
What are you, a moron? Go
Must
away.
be, yeah.
Go away.
To you.
Go away. You take photos to put onto websites to incite people to hurt people.
No, that's what your people do.
To incite people to
That's what your
violence.
people do.
No, we don't.
I disagree with
You
violence.
don't take photographs of me.
Off you go.
Why? Or what?
I don't care, mate.
Okay, don't worry. Hello, mate. Let the lady through. Come on, you fucks.
Off you go. I know what you want to do, be a martyr. Just go up
I'm
the
getting
road.
Martin. Let's do a bit of filming.
Just go up the road, right? Just go.
You'd like to give us an interview, Cole?
National Front, National Front, right?
Designated protest area.
Yeah, fine. It's National Front. Do whatever you do. He hangs around with people who deny right for us. Tony Martin, who's banned from Facebook. You ask your governor.
How do you feel about the Labour Party wanting to replace the white working class?
Oh, you are National Front, aren't
That's
you?
right, yeah.
You're a fascist, you don't talk.
Well, no, I'm not actually, but I was just willing to ask you a question.
I don't talk to Nazis, mate. So
Okay, fair enough. Hi everyone, thanks for coming along today. I'm back in London at the moment. Obviously I've come over for Ron Velleman's trial tomorrow. So I've been in touch with the courts today and it's going ahead tomorrow. It's at Harrow Crown Court, but it's actually in the building to Southwark Crown Court. So it's just around the corner from London Bridge. So it's quite convenient for me to pop along and go and see him there. Hopefully he'll get at least 18 months. I think that's unlikely because they're going to say that because he works for Hope Not Hate, or he has worked for Hope Not Hate, various Jewish organisations, they're going to say that he's a pillar of the community or something like that, which we all know he isn't. But it'd be good at least to hear them use that as a mitigating circumstance, because it proves the two-tier justice system that we all know exists anyway. So we've got that to look forward to tomorrow. I've been hearing from the police again because I've been chasing them up about who was informed that he was under investigation before his arrest, and they can neither confirm or deny that they hold that information or whatever they say. Basically, they don't want to answer me. I'll still chase them up a bit more, but it looks like they're not going to answer. They're not going to answer that. But it definitely looks suspicious. The time of the messaging of the decoy to the event at Downing Street. So it could just be coincidence, but I don't really believe in coincidences. What's John Gary put here? He's put 18 months is only 9 months inside. Oh, a bit of a joke. To be fair, I think most sentences are. It seems political prisoners get a lot worse because they get so many conditions put on them when they get bail, that compared to someone who's actually committed a crime like Velleman or whatever that they get. So yeah, I was doing some more looking into Velleman as well, because he obviously, as lots of people have pointed out, he advised Parliament as a representative of Hope Not Hate on the online safety bill. And I recently watched the video again of him giving his evidence opinion, basically, to the Home Affairs Select Committee. And basically he was lying. He spoke about about terrorism and prescribing organisations like National Action, and he made out that it was easy for him to just start up under a new name and carry on, when we know that isn't the truth. We know that people got arrested for allegedly trying that. I don't know if they were or not. People weren't allowed to meet with each other and various things like that. So that was misinformation, what he gave there. He also complained about people being able to get around the So at the time, what was being proposed at the time, he complained about people being able to get around it by claiming to be journalists or political, but and saying that someone like Tommy Robinson would on an Urban Scoop would only need to add a complaints button to their website. I don't know if they've got that now. I assume they didn't have it at the time, and they would become a legitimate media source. But as far as I'm aware, Hope Not Hate, who claim to be journalists, haven't got a complaints button on their website. So I don't see what he's complaining about there. And also, if anyone is registered politically, either as a political party or standing as a candidate, or has a website claiming to be a journalist, people know who they are and where to find them. If anyone is committing any fault crimes or anything like that, the police know where they are, where they're going to get people. It's not anonymous. An interesting thing that he did say, though, was he'd like things to be anonymous still for groups like LGBTQ plus people. I don't think that was his exact words, but so that they could contact their members of parliament and councillors and people like that without registering their details with platforms like Facebook. But surely if you're going to contact your MP or any elected official, the best way to do it is either over the telephone or via email, not via social media. So I don't know where he's coming from with that. But basically, nearly everything he said the whole time he was speaking was just lies. He said about people getting banned for breaking the rules. And I think the people he was talking about got banned because they was on a list from Hope Not Hate, not and pushed by Yvette Cooper and the Home Affairs Select Committee. So that was a lie as well. So obviously Hope Not Hate have said that they had no idea that he was a paedophile, and unfortunately we've got to believe them on that because there is no evidence. But they must know that he lied to the Home Affairs Select Committee when he gave evidence. And also, like I've pointed out numerous times before, they knew about Pete Doherty and a lot of the things that he got up to, and they were happy to have Pete Doherty raising money for them because he was probably one of the only celebrities that actually would raise money for them. But he's a complete and utter lowlife who's been involved in 3 suspicious deaths. I've got to be careful what I say there because he hasn't been convicted of anything like that. He was convicted of burgling his best mate and bandmate's house or flat or whatever it was, but he wasn't convicted over any of the deaths or for robbing old ladies at the theatre. Like he used to work in a theatre and he'd give them a change of a £5 instead of a tenner. I assume this is back in the early 90s or mid 90s, but an absolute despicable character. Not as bad as being a paedophile, depending on how involved he was in the deaths, but they still knew it. They still knew about him before they had him working for them. So that they are a terrible organisation with terrible people. And I know I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but we do need to get the message out about what terrible people they are. And we need to shame the people working for them the next time they're giving evidence in Parliament about something, because it's not just Laron Velleman that's been there. I was watching another video, I forget her name, an Asian girl that works for them. She was in Parliament giving orders to MPs about what they want doing and all these things like that. So they need to be held to account for that. And more importantly, the elected officials that are listening to them and using them as experts need to be held to account as well. Although the Charities Commission were a bit weak, were very weak in their findings and only made them retrospectively sort a few things out, i.e. making it clear that Hope Not Hate Charitable Trust, now Hope Unlimited, and Hope Not Hate the campaign organisation are 2 separate organisations, which I think they've now made clear on most websites, I think with the exception of the American website that they've got. I think they've changed the LinkedIn profile now as well, so they've sorted that out. But it's still the fact that they've raised loads of money that wasn't for charitable purposes through a charity. They should be made to pay the tax or whatever perks they've had on that. They should be made to pay that back. It shouldn't just be a matter of, oh, don't do it, stop, don't do it anymore and we'll forget about it. they need to be held to account for it. So so we need to keep the pressure on them there. So like I said, I'll be along at Southwark Crown Court tomorrow. It's at 12 o'clock. His sentencing. I'll probably aim to get there about 10 o'clock so I can hang around outside. I might do a live stream from outside as well. In fact, I probably will do. I'll arrange that after I get off here, but I'll arrange a live stream for tomorrow from probably about 10 o'clock or something in the morning, ready for him arriving, because I've no idea what time he's going to arrive. I think the court actually opens at about 8:30. I could get there that early. If I'm up and about, I might head up there for then. But it's difficult because I would have thought he'd aim to get there for 9 o'clock. But if he's expecting people outside, he saw me outside last time. So if he's expecting people outside, there's a good chance that he'll get there early to try and avoid that. So so we'll see what happens. I don't think anyone from Hope Not Hate was along to support him last time, but this is Laron Velleman I'm talking about for anyone that's only just joined. Yeah, I don't think anyone from Hope Not Hate was there to support him last time, or even just to keep an eye on the case. You would have thought they'd have some interest in it. They're probably just relying on what the media say. But yeah, so I'll be there. I'll be keeping an eye out for anyone like that. And like I said, the main thing that I'm interested in is both what his defence barrister says and what the judge says in sentencing, i.e. if they still claim, because at the, I think it was at the January court case where he pleaded guilty, they actually said that he was of good character, not of previous good character. I can understand them saying someone's of previous good character, but when someone's been sending dick pics to what they believe is a 13-year-old girl, they're obviously not of good character. And and it's a bit ingenuous of a defence barrister to try and say that. In fact, when I went along last month, the prosecution barrister, he wasn't talking to me, but he was talking to some sort of officials there. I'm not even sure who they were, but he was actually saying now he's obviously not of good character if he's been doing the despicable things that he's been doing. So so it'll definitely be interesting to see what goes on tomorrow. Hopefully it will take place. Like I said, it's scheduled for 12 o'clock. So so yeah, we'll see what's happening with that. Has anyone got anything else on Laron Velleman or Hope Not Hate in general? That's a sick individual sending images to a kid. Yeah, I'm only thankful that it was a decoy and not an actual 13-year-old girl. But I believe it was women that were actually the decoys, because I think they were in court last month. I'm not 100% sure it was them, but from the way they were talking about it, it sounded like they were the actual ones running the decoy. So it was. So although it never actually went to a 13-year-old girl, it went to a couple of women in their 40s. Shaz on there. I better put a message up or I'll get in trouble. There we go. Sorry, Shaz, I missed your message. How's the sound, by the way, everyone? I've actually got, I don't know if you can see it there, but I've got a couple of wireless mics on. I've got one wireless mic that's going to the laptop, which is what you can hear now, and I'm also recording on a DJI. So the other wireless mic is doing that. So I don't know if the audio is better or worse than it usually is. Hopefully it's better. So let's see what other messages there are. I'm sure they're going to wipe their hands of him. Yeah, they released a statement saying that he was a junior employee, which was a lie because they're a fairly small organisation, and he represented them in Parliament. So he's not a junior. He wasn't a junior employee. He was at least sort of middle, if not a high-ranking employee. So they've lied about that. I think Nick Lowell said, I'm just I'm trying to remember now. It's obviously not an exact quote, but I think they said they had no idea that he was a paedophile, and they hope that he gets a good that he's dealt with appropriately, basically. So, but like they would say that, and like I pointed out, they might not have known about Liron Velleman, but they know about Matthew Collins. I'm not saying he's done anything as disgusting as that, but he sends a lot of disgusting messages to women and blokes. He sent some to me as well online, and does despicable things like that, and is a pervert. Although, as far as I'm aware, that doesn't involve children. But and they also know about Pete Doherty and a lot of the crimes that he's committed. I'm sure that nobody knows about all the crimes that he committed. He was probably too high to remember a lot of them. Tony, do you think reform are getting nobbled by hope not hate now? I don't know, really. I think with reform, I think they're just going to hang themselves, really. They've, I think I've said before that I think it was probably a mistake of Starmer's to try and postpone those elections, because the more people that reform get elected at local and regional level, the more mistakes they're going to make, the more of an embarrassment they make. Like being the opposition, whether that's the official opposition or the unofficial opposition, as Farage kind of is at the moment, is a fairly easy job. I'm not going to say it's completely easy, but you're basically just second guessing people, and you just complain about everything that people do. You've only got to look at Zach Polanski when he's all the things he wants them to spend money on and things for them to do. He was right on not getting involved in Iran, but then a lot of the things that he wants to try and push, if you're actually trying to balance the books, it doesn't work. And Keir Starmer's found that out the hard way. When he was in opposition, he came out of a manifesto that was going to be great for everyone, spend money on everything, reduce taxes and this, that and the other. And then when it came down to actually doing it, the money wasn't there. And they should have known that the money wasn't there anyway. They've either got to be incompetent or lying to say that they didn't know that the money wasn't there. And then when they've come into government, they've been found wanting. And I think with reform, the more councils they get, the more people they've got in council chambers, the more they're going to embarrass them, and the less likely they are to win a general election. But I don't think hope not hate really need to nobble Farage. I think what they've done, and people are free to disagree with me, I don't actually know this is just me surmising, but I think what Hope Not Hate, Stand Up to Racism and various other organisations do is they kind of subversively try and push people like Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson and people that are on the pro-Zionist side of patriotism and promote them. When Tommy Robinson had that big protest in London, where I was working at the time at Imperial College, there was all posters up about it, flyers up, obviously not supporting Tommy Robinson, supporting Stand Up to Racism, but it was letting people know that he was having a big protest. And people at work were talking about it, and people even went along to support Tommy Robinson's side of it. And they might not have known about that if it wasn't for unions, Stand Up to Racism and Hope Not Hate and the mainstream media pushing it. And obviously Hope Not Hate advise Parliament, as I was mentioning earlier, but they also advise the media. And that's why whenever any media doesn't follow their demands or whatever, they start slagging them off as well. But they do advise the media. One example of that was in 2019 when Tommy Robinson stood for the European elections. As far as I'm aware, it's the first and only time that he's actually stood in an election. But Nick Lowell's actually said himself they decided to treat it completely differently, and they advised all the press not to give him any publicity. And then all the work that they put in was in what they said was like areas where he wasn't likely to get support, i.e. Muslim areas. I would have thought. They didn't actually say that. But so basically they decided, because he was running for election at the time, for that election period, they decided to treat Tommy Robinson like they would do the National Front or the BNP or the British Democrats or anyone who's actually running in elections and actually trying to do things properly, which is probably one of the reasons why, I'm just surmising here. I've never met Tommy Robinson or had a conversation with him, but I'm surmising that's why he's, after that, went back to protests and things like that to gain publicity. He probably thought beforehand that getting leaflets distributed at the taxpayer's expense and things like that would gain him a lot of publicity. Plus, being in the media a lot would gain him a lot of publicity, but it probably got him a lot less than he intended, because Hope Not Hate advising the media didn't give him the publicity. So, and I think it's similar with Farage. They slag off Farage, but not too much. They do it in a way it looks like they're picking on him or double standards or whatever like that, and they'll end up generating him a load of publicity. It's like when Stand Up to Racism picket their events and things. They're not going to stop them. All they're doing is raising publicity for him, and they know they're doing that. Farage has said that it was him who destroyed the BNP, and again, a lot of people do dispute that, but I think it's a matter of where on the spectrum, because he did obviously have something to do with it. It's just how much of it was him, how much of it was other people, how much of it was infighting and things like that. But he definitely had something to do with that. And I think the reason was that from around sort of 2009, maybe a bit earlier than that, he was invited on any TV program basically that he wanted to be on. Remembering at the time, UKIP weren't any bigger than the BNP. In a lot of elections, the BNP were doing a lot better than UKIP, but Farage was the one invited on the TV all the time. And people are thinking, at last, someone talking some sense on the TV, when there was a lot of other people talking more sense than Farage, but just weren't invited on the TV. And the similar thing happened with Tommy Robinson, not at the start of the EDL, because no one knew who was running the EDL then, or most people didn't know. But then as he came out as the leader, he started getting invited on loads of TV programs and things like that. So that the media, they've got a clever way of doing it, where they sort of promote people by slagging them off. Like again, back when the BNP was doing reasonably well, the only criticism that UKIP used to get in the media was that they're trying to make out that they're more far right or patriotic than they actually were. They weren't getting slagged off for lots of other things. So I don't think that the Hope Not Hate really wants a nobble Farage, because basically I think they're likely to just collapse themselves. People talk about Rupert Lowe splitting the vote. I wouldn't call it that, because I think Rupert Lowe's a step in the right direction. He's not perfect by any means, but he's definitely a step in the right direction from Nigel Farage. So hopefully he takes as many votes off Farage as he can, and hopefully he gets a few MPs elected, and then everyone's got something to push for after that, trying to get genuine nationalists elected. Like I think I said last week, in Parliament and in the House of Lords, there's MPs and Lords that self-identify as Black activists, as Muslim activists, as Jewish activists, as Sikh activists, and various other things like that. But there's not one MP or Lord who self-identifies as a white activist who fights for white people. There's lots of white MPs, I know that, but none of them would, if someone said to them, "Are you a white activist?" they would say no. At the moment, the way the Overton wind is shifting, some of them might change their tune, but at the moment, they would all say no. I think the closest thing we've got is a lot of people, like a lot of unionist MPs would consider themselves probably to be Christian or Protestant activists, but not white activists. So that's probably as close as we've got at the moment, closely followed by people like Rupert Lowe. And then Nigel Farage is probably mid-table at 650 MPs. There's probably half of them are probably better than him, maybe more. Yeah, so I don't think Hope Not Hate really want to nobble Nigel Farage. Again, the whole time that either reform or restore or advance or someone is doing reasonably well in the polls or in elections, they know it's a lot harder for any genuine nationalist parties to actually build up and achieve something, because so many people are just hoping that Farage will do something. And in some respects, you can't blame people because they want to have some sort of hope and things like that. But it's just, I personally don't believe that Nigel Farage is the person to deliver that. Rupert Lowe might deliver some of it, but again, as far as I'm aware, I still think he's a Zionist as well. People might think I bang on about the Jews and Israel too much. I just try and balance things out, really, because I'm obviously not obsessed by them. But when you've got people that everyone is holding up as some sort of beacon of hope, and that they're prioritising another country above ours, then they obviously aren't that beacon of hope. We don't want someone running our country who is more loyal to any other country, not just Israel. If someone, obviously you've got a lot of West Indian and Pakistani and Indian MPs as well. We don't want people running the country that are more loyal to the Caribbean, to Asia, to anywhere, Aboriginal Australians or anything. It's not just a matter of singling out the Jews and Israel. It's a matter of anyone running Britain should be 100%, or as near as you can get to 100% British, and for the British people above anything else. And I don't think that any of them in Parliament really are. I think the nearest would have been probably Enoch Powell years ago as an actual elected MP to be anything like that. And again, Enoch Powell wasn't ideal. When he was the health minister, he brought in a lot of Caribbean nurses, which obviously wasn't good for the country. But I think he did learn from that. And like a lot of people did learn from it. A great number of people have started off early in their political career making mistakes. But the difference between someone who makes mistakes when they're young and someone who's just an absolute waste of space is that they're willing to learn from it, in my opinion, anyway. I'm just going to go through the comments there. Try and keep up with them. Hi, Tony. I missed last week's. Not a problem, Mark. I've uploaded the podcast version. Like I normally say, what I do is obviously do the live streams on a Thursday, and then I record it as well, edit the recording, and put up a shorter version on a Sunday at 4 o'clock. So there'll be an edited version of this going out Sunday at 4 o'clock, as I did last week for last Sunday for last Thursdays. So although we're not getting that many views yet, it's good practice, and people do seem to enjoy them anyway. So I'll get a lot of constructive comments. So that's good. But yeah, so if ever you miss a live stream, it's probably not worth watching the live stream after it's gone out. You're probably better off waiting to the Sunday and getting a shorter version. I think last week's live stream was about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And then the podcast one that I uploaded on the Sunday was about 45 minutes. So you've got all the content in not 30 minutes less, or the majority of it. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Restore is a better option, but they're still not 100%. But again, it's shifting the Overton window, because since Restore's come about, Reform are starting to speak a lot more like proper patriots than they were speaking when they were the only show in town. And even the Labour Party, although we all know what they're about and things like that, the left of the Labour Party are in revolt at the moment. They're absolutely disgusted by the way Starmer and Yvette Cooper are acting in office. Like trying to cut down on the amount of illegal immigrants and things like that, which I'm sure if there wasn't pressure from Farage and Rupert Lowe, they probably wouldn't be doing. but at least that's happening. And I saw someone posted earlier on Facebook. I haven't looked into it yet. That they're looking to move the age to allow abortions right up until birth, which is what I think Trump might have stopped it. I think it was going on in some US states prior to Trump getting re-elected. So to be fair, even the current age of, I think it's about 24 weeks at the moment, that a baby can be aborted. Babies can be born alive. Obviously, they need to go in incubators and get proper hospital treatment. But a child can come out at 22 weeks and survive. And so often they do have side effects from that, and long-term illness, life-changing problems. But some of them make a full recovery and become normal adults. So it's bad enough as it is at the moment. It should be lowered rather than increased. And it makes me think, why would someone have an abortion? I'm excluding medical cases now. It's different if there's a danger to the if the baby's not, if it's going to have virtually no chance of a reasonable life or something like that, or a danger to the mother, that's separate. But I'm talking about an elective abortion where someone a woman just decides to have an abortion. But why would they have that so late? Because I was watching a video that Charlie Kirk was talking on, that was shown after he was assassinated, and he was saying in that they still, I think it was him anyway, they still need to give birth to the baby. If they have an abortion, they still have to birth the baby. So right up until the I apologise if I'm upsetting anyone here, because I'm upsetting myself really, or should I say they've upset me by looking to change the law and by doing it in America. But right up to birth, they could just give birth to the baby and put it up for adoption, or give it to the father or grandparents or whoever like that. The only reason that I can think of, please comment if anyone can think of any others, that a woman would have an abortion literally days or weeks before the birth, when the baby's due to be born, is out of spite, to get at the father or the grandparents, or to get at someone, or just to come across as a sicko for whatever sort of fantasy that they've got. But there's no other reason that I can think of to do that. It's just to get at the father. It's absolutely sickening. Like I said, I can't think of any other reason to do that, really. There's no reason why, if a woman is going to have an abortion, why it can't be within the first 8 or 10 weeks. They tend to know they're pregnant fairly soon. And if in any doubt, they should check out and get tested. It must be pretty rare that someone doesn't find out that they're pregnant until after 20 odd weeks. And again, the sooner that they do it, the less the baby will suffer, and the easier it is on the, not really a mother because they're not giving birth, but the would-be mother. It's sickening to try and change things like that. Hi Tony, you got a book or Substack recommendation that help us better understand the truth? Not really. To tell the truth, most of the books I read are actually written by our opposition. I read Hope Not Hate's books and various things like that. I've read Diane Abbott's book, David Lammy's book, Sadiq Khan's book, and I'm obviously not going to start recommending them to people. I'm about to start reading Julian Leppert's Into the Furnace. I actually bought it at Christmas time, but I haven't got round to starting reading it yet. I knew Julian quite well when we were both in the BNP, and he's a good bloke. I believe he's with the British Democrats now. I'm not 100% on that, but he was taught the books all about his time in the BNP. So I don't know whether to recommend it yet because I haven't started reading it, but I would have thought it'd be a good book to read. I'm thinking about setting up my own website as well, so I'll try and come up with a list of books when I get round to doing that. It probably won't be till about May or June that I'll do that, but I'll try and come up with lots of links and books and things like that on there. And also, if anyone else has got any books to recommend, you could put them in the comments now, and I'll share them up there, or Substacks or anything like that. Hope Not Hate are using a church in Vauxhall as cover and have operatives in congregation and working closely with the Fabian Society, which are just closet Satanists. I'm not surprised by that. I've seen a couple of things about a church over Vauxhall. We're probably thinking about the same one. Yeah, it's worth keeping an eye on things like that. Yeah, that's what I was saying before. These socialist anarchist groups try to direct attention to fake or plastic nationalists like Farage to make him appear to be a tough nationalist when he's quite soft. Yep, that's true. The government has sold out certain banking families more disease. Nonsense all over the media now, and pre-planned wars to increase energy prices. Why can't anyone see it all? It's all by design. Yep, 100% there. Everyone's an F-No-Net now. How times have changed. Yep. If anyone was to be able to identify as a white activist, they'd be crucified, to be honest, though. We can't vote our way out of this. It's cooked democracy. Is an age-old lie. And if you ain't with the tribe, you ain't getting out the trap yet. Lots of good books to read free on the internet, on archive, yeah. Well done there. What I'm doing here. Can anyone explain to me those that come here illegally have military grade boats and life jackets? Yep. What am I doing now? I've clicked on something I shouldn't have now. Oh, that must be it. That's it, yeah. Yeah, these boats, well, it's the same boats that keep going backwards and forwards, isn't it? I think when it first started, they were like stolen dinghies off yachts and things, weren't they? But now they are a lot more military grade, and they keep giving them back to them. That's the thing. If they were getting destroyed or sold or whatever like that once they came here, then they wouldn't be it cost a lot more or there'd be a lot less profit involved in bringing them over. And the same as the life jackets, they just get given back to them. They're given to them by, I think it's the French Coast Guard or whoever, and then our people just give them back to them. Do you think we can ever claw the armed forces and public services back from the grips of woke culture? Yeah, I think we can. I think especially the way the tide's been turning in public opinion as well. And I think probably the majority of people, definitely in the armed forces, but in the public sector as well, I think a lot of them don't agree with it, but it's just the easiest thing. If you're not to the same degree as a lot of people, but to some degree, I've had to do it. When I was working in London, people start talking about something and you just have to either try and change the subject or sort of like nod along to it. What I used to try and do is I just to try and push back a little bit, but I'd obviously have to be very careful because I was at work and you could get sacked for having an opinion like that. In fact, that brings me on to the thing that a PE teacher was sacked for saying send the Navy to stop small boats entering the UK. And a PE teacher was actually sacked for that. And that's what the Navy is supposed to be doing, defending Britain. If they're not going to defend Britain, it's pointless having a Navy. They cost a lot of money. And if we're not getting any value out of them and not likely to get any value out of them, it's pointless having them. Obviously, I'm not advocating doing away with the armed forces, but the Navy should be used to stop the small boats and anything like that coming, because you don't know what else is coming in, drugs and weapons or anything like that with them. If you think how much they're allegedly paying for a seat on one of these boats, a reasonable sized package of drugs or a few guns could quite easily get that money back. So, but a PE teacher has been banned from teaching after writing "Deploy the Navy" in response to a social media post about illegal migrant invaders. So it's not even as if he said it at school. It's not as if he said it to the children or in the staff room or anything like that. He's just posted it on social media. I assume he did it in his own name, which is where he's come unstuck, and which is why organisations like Hope Not Hate want to ban anonymity from social media so they can get school teachers sacked, so they can get other people sacked. It's a perfectly rational thing. If I was to go into, forget about your trendy wine bar type places, but if I was to go into most working class pubs anywhere in the country, at least half the people would agree with that statement. It's not that extreme, is it? And a school PE teacher has been sacked for that, and that was up in that was at, the guy's name's Samuel Everett, and he taught at Halton Academy in Darlington, County Durham. And if you think up that part of the world, you think they're sort of a lot less liberal than London, and you'd think that would be a perfectly normal thing to say. But back to the original question about getting things back from the woke people, there's probably loads of teachers that think like that. There's probably loads of people working in housing departments that think like that. Imagine having to go into houses and having to deal with some of the scum, I think, is a reasonable thing to call them. A lot of these immigrants that have come over and how entitled they are. It was only a few years ago. It must be more than that because it was under the last Labour administrations. It would have been just over 4 years ago. There were blacks in Croydon complaining that the council were racist against them. And that was a Labour council at the time. And the reason they said that was the fact that they were forced to live in damp flats. But from what they said, I don't think anyone came out and said that it was their fault for living like animals. But that's kind of the impression I got. They said that they'd sent in various different plumbers, and they couldn't find any leaks. They didn't know. So basically, what was probably happening was they're cooking loads of pots and pans all day, drying clothes indoors, staying in the house. Possibly got more people living in there than should be living there. All the windows shut, and they're getting loads of damp in the houses. So imagine actually having to deal with that day in, day out, where people are complaining about the state of their house, and that's a house that's owned by the taxpayer that is being damaged by them, and they're complaining about it. I would have thought probably even a lot of the blacks who work for councils and Asians that are having to deal with these people on a regular basis must despise them. I remember I haven't done much of that kind of work, but I was working for a maintenance firm that did most of the work I was doing was in office blocks, but they did a little bit for a housing association somewhere, and I didn't have to go there that much, thank God, but I did go there a few times. And I remember I went to this house of Africans, and there was meant to be like a leak. So I've gone into this house, and there's a big hole in the ceiling where the plasterboards sort of come down through water damage. And I sort of looked up through the hole. I couldn't see anything there, but it was bone dry. So I said, has somebody already fixed it? And the woman said that no, they hadn't. It was still leaking, but it only leaked when they had a bath. So I said, it must be the waste pipe then. So I went upstairs to the bath. I ran a little bit of water down the plug hole, went back downstairs to have a look at I'm probably getting too much into the plumbing details here, but I went downstairs to see if it was leaking, and there wasn't a drop. So I filled the bath up and drained it down a couple of times, filled the bath all the way up and emptied it. And there wasn't a drip of water coming out in this supposed leak that had caused a lot of damage in this house. And I noticed up in the bathroom there was a load of buckets in the bath, and I just made my excuses and left. And I just wrote on the report and told people that what I believed they were doing. And this isn't being racist. I would have said the same thing if it was white people there. It'd be a lot less likely to happen if it was white people there. But what I believed they were doing was literally standing in the bath, pouring buckets of water over themselves. The water was going everywhere on the floor and going through the ceiling. There was no pipe work to be fixed. Everything was fine. And anyone that is dealing with people like that on a day in, day out basis must really despise them. So I think people just know, anyone who's had a job really knows, whether it's about racism or whether it's about internal politics, everybody knows that you need to sort of just keep it zipped about something. Like I said, it might be internal politics or it might be external politics, but you have to, in order to get on and keep your job, you have to keep your mouth shut. So I would have thought as soon as a few laws are changed about the Race Act and various things like that, as soon as something's implemented to give people free speech, I'm sure most of the people, or a lot of the people working in these jobs, whether it's the police, whether it's social services, whether it's anything like that, will just start coming round. Most of them are aware already. They know they lose their job as soon as they speak out on something. Imagine being a police officer. Like they talk about institutional racism in the police force, and because more blacks get stopped and searched and things like that. Although when they are stopped and searched, like I said the other week, 1 in 3 of them are found to have something that they shouldn't have on them. So it looks like it's completely justified, the majority of the stop and searches, and they complain about that. And police officers must, like they say, racism is you're not born with racism. Racism is something that's learned, and you learn it from dealing with them on a daily basis. And most police officers must hate having to deal with these roadmen, as they call them, including the black police officers, because they get called Uncle Toms and bounty bars and coconuts and whatever else they call them, and are basically accused of being sellouts. That even they must despise them, the ones that they're the ones that they're dealing with. I'm talking about the police officers that aren't completely corrupt. There's obviously quite a few that are just completely corrupt. But it's the same with all these union people. I'm sure a lot of the people that go on protests sort of get dragged along because their union's dealing with something for them, and they sort of feel obliged to go along, even though they've already paid into the union and are entitled to be represented, but to make sure they get represented properly. I've noticed people starting to wear face masks again. Oh, is that about the meningitis that's supposedly breaking out? Yeah. A friend of mine had meningitis out in Belfast. Fortunately enough, he's made as close to a full recovery as you can. He's out and about and things like that. But yeah, the thing is, with anything, whether it's flu, cold, COVID, meningitis, any sort of communicable disease, a lot of it's caused by living in cramped conditions and having people piled up on top of each other. Like years ago, when people just lived in small villages and not that many people went between the two villages and things like that, it'd be almost impossible for diseases to spread. You had the plague and that was spread through the Silk Railroad, or whatever they call it, the Silk Road, and things like that. But that was only once people sort of started trading more. But nowadays, with modern medicine, I think the big problem is people living on top of each other. Like when COVID was spreading, there was complaints at the time that blacks were disproportionately affected more than white people. I think it was blacks and Asians, and the reason for that was that they had more kids and were more likely to be living on top of each other. So it was their own doing, really. It wasn't a matter of like white people deliberately leaving them in a situation where they're more likely to be affected by it. But they're more likely to sort of spread the diseases. So and you've had it as well with TB has been reintroduced to the country, and then you get the Asians. Some of them, what they do is they get treated for TB, they start to make a recovery, so they stop taking their antibiotics. So they then that develops what they call antibiotic resistant TB, which is harder to treat than the normal TB, and that's just due to immigrants not following the doctor's instructions properly. But yeah, I'm sure that if people weren't getting piled on, that's why London was hit so bad with COVID, because people were having to get onto the tube, and you've got a lot of people that have got bad hygiene and things like that, and it's a ripe environment for not just COVID, but the flu, TB, and anything like that to spread. So if we weren't overpopulated, we wouldn't be in situations where diseases can spread. And also the way the government handled the COVID situation, and not just the government, the opposition were probably worse than them. They were demanding stricter lockdowns and various other things like that. So they've proven that they can't be trusted at all. What's that one? Reform doing a show at the Fairfield Halls, apparently. I haven't heard about that. I'll have to look into that. I've been recommended a book called Hellstorm. I bought it, but I haven't started reading it. Sounds like you're like me, buying a book and then not starting reading it. Let us know how you get on with that. Far-right Nazis never respond to facts because they can't read. What was it? Hang on, have I missed a comment here? I'll have a look back. I'm not sure what that one's about. Keep giving them benefits, they'll keep coming. Yep. That's exactly the thing when they talk about deportation. Now you can't deport that many people, but when you stop giving them benefits, when you do away with the race acts, when you change a lot of the circumstances here, they deport themselves. You won't need to deport. You won't need to deport millions. The boat creatures have no military infrastructure, no heavy weapons. Hopefully they don't have any heavy weapons anyway. And they're also very unfit. They could not even do chin-ups. Oh, okay, yeah, that's the book. I've not read it. I was told about it years ago. A mate of mine has it. It details the atrocities German women were put through, mass rape by the Russians. Yeah. Yeah. Stop and search is necessary when dealing with uncivilized creatures who carry their primitive habits with them. Yep, definitely. And as well, like they go on about like the police stop them all the time for no reason. But like I said earlier, 1 in 3 of them, I think perhaps more than that now, have something that they shouldn't have on them anyway when they're stopped. So you'd think if they were getting stopped all the time for no reason and practically expecting to get stopped, that virtually none of them would have anything on them. It just doesn't make sense. I don't carry a weapon or drugs or anything like that with me when I go out. But if I was expecting to get stopped, or if I was getting regularly stopped, I did get regularly stopped when I was younger, but I haven't been, other than on protests and things, I haven't been stopped and searched probably for 10 years. But if I was getting stopped and searched regularly, I'd be even less likely to carry anything illegal. So it's so it's complete and utter rubbish about that when they say that it's that they're being picked on. Yeah. NHS staff were silenced a long time ago about staying silent. TV actors never come on and declare the third world disease that the West has conquered. They will sing out about COVID. Yep. I didn't actually see the original comment. If he or she's still on, say the original comment again. And I haven't deliberately avoided anything. So if there's anyone here who's on the left or pro-abortion, pushing homosexuality, pro-Israel, anything like that. If anyone's got any opinions that differ to mine, it'll make things more interesting. You're more than welcome to say your piece. If I have missed a comment out, I apologise for that. I've had to skim past a few comments, but I definitely wouldn't miss a comment out because because I'm scared to answer something. So. Is there other people saying something that I'm not? Because I haven't seen any more comments. No. Oh, right. We'll leave that alone anyway. Okay. Well, I'll probably be calling it a day fairly soon because obviously I'm going to see Liron Velleman tomorrow, so I need to get a few things ready for that. But he called Lowe a fascist, Chelsea woke, and you a coward. But now saying still disappeared. Oh, right. Yeah, he can brag about that for years for coming on here and calling me a coward. Yeah. So I'll be going along to see Hope Not Hate or Liron Velleman tomorrow at court. Hopefully, I can catch him before he goes in there and ask him a couple of questions politely again, because I don't want to be getting arrested. But I don't know if he's going to try, because I don't really want to get there for 8:30 when the court case. I might do it anyway. I can just do stuff on my phone, sit outside or something, can't I? When the court case isn't until 12. I suppose it's only 3.5 hours. Like I said, it's not as if it's the old days when you'd have to read a book or something. At least I've got my phone, so I can be doing a few things on my phone. So I might get there for 8:30. I'll see how things go. But it'd be nice to see him get sent down, and also the most important thing is to find out what kind of mitigating circumstances that they put forward. One of them they were saying was that it's ruined his marriage, but really, because he's now, I don't know if he's actually divorced, but he's been thrown out by her. But it hasn't really, because the whole marriage must have been a lie anyway. I'm sure she didn't, or hopefully she didn't marry him knowing he was a paedophile. So it's not as if that's happened to him as some kind of punishment. It's a matter of the only punishment has been on his wife, not him. So that's no defense or mitigating circumstance. In fact, it's an aggravating circumstance, because he's also ruined, hopefully not permanently, but ruined the life of his wife and his child as well. I think his child's coming up for 2 or something. And then so it's going to be terrible for them. Hopefully, obviously, his child's young enough that can just get told that he died in a car accident or something and never see him, or something like that, until they're old enough to know. It must be horrible. You can't really tell a child something like that, can you? So it would have been worse if his child was about 10 or something and was still young and impressionable, but had an idea of what was going on. The Old Bailey don't let phones in. There's a shop, charges a bit to mind your phone. Oh, right, I didn't know that. All the courts I've been to allow phones in and take any actual cameras off you other than your camera phone. All the ones in London I've been to, I've not been to the Old Bailey, but I've been to Croydon Magistrates and Crown Court, and I've been to Highbury Corner Magistrates, and they've taken my GoPro off me, but let me keep my phone. And then the other week I went to Belfast Crown Court, and they let me take my GoPro in as well. So I thought they did tell me I'm not allowed to film in there, which obviously I knew anyway, but they didn't take my GoPro off me. I need to remember for tomorrow to take 2 bags with me, because what they did up taking my whole bag, and I had to grab a quick couple of things out of it, and I think I forgot my watch or a couple of things, but I had my pen and paper and my phone and whatever, and then they kept that. So I'm gonna take a carrier bag or something inside my bag, so I can leave my bag with them, but take a few other bits into the court with me, because it was a nightmare getting through security getting through security there. But it won't be as strict as the Old Bailey. It'll probably be you check it in, they give you like a cloakroom ticket, and they take your bag or your camera off you, and then you get it back on the way out. You don't have to go to a shop and pay any money for anything. In fact, a friend of mine, he was something happened to someone in his family, and he landed up only in the public gallery, but he was going up the Old Bailey for a week, and he took his phone in there. I don't know if it's only for specific cases, high profile cases, they don't let them in there. I think the main thing, as long as you don't record anything, either video, photo, or audio. Yep. If anything, I pity the family, have no sympathy for him. No, exactly. And the thing is, even if he's not going to get 5 or 10 years, but even if he did get 5 or 10 years, it'd be 30. Or sorry, even if he did, rather than got 5 or 10 years, if he served that long, it'd still be 35 or 40 when he came out. It'd still be a lot younger than I am now when he got out after that, and we know he's not going to get anywhere near that. So he's always going to be a danger to children, and it's going to cost a fortune to. What's this one? Mixed Race and Proud, 1690. Just another sad little lemming sat in his bedroom flicking between the BBC Channel 4 and Sky for his daily brainwashing of lefty lies and Labour Anglophobic propaganda. Oh. Yeah. Yes, like I said, Vellum and all the other nonsense as well. Once they get out, they're going to carry on either being a threat to children or a drain on the taxpayer from having to monitor him. So it's not really an answer, really, is there? I think. Possibly in Velleman's case, deport him. He's got dual nationality. He's an Israeli citizen, so deport him. I don't know their age range, but I think 30. He might still be young enough for conscription in Israel. I'm not sure the ages they do it from. But anyway, I'm going to call it a day now. I'm probably going to go live tomorrow morning at about 10 o'clock. Last time I was going to go live at the court, I had trouble connecting my phone. So it's not 100% that I'll do that, but I'll try and do that. And then hopefully I'll put a proper video out afterwards tomorrow evening with whatever's happened to Livron Velleman. And then I'll put up the edited version of this to go up at 4 o'clock on Sunday, and I'll be doing the live stream again next week, 7:30 on Thursday. I'll try and put out some more videos in the meantime, but like I said, I'll be going to the court tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. A reminder to everyone, not Saturday, but the Saturday after, Patriotic Alternative have got their protest in Nuneaton. I'm not sure of the details of that, but it'll be on their website. I'm not going there. I'm busy doing it, and a few other people are as well. We're doing something else, so we won't be there. But if anyone's free, they can obviously go along to Patriot Alternatives thing. So yeah, good night, everyone, and thanks very much. It's been a pleasure as always. If the person who seemed to think I was copping out of saying something, just comment in the actual comments once the video's gone down, and I'll try and respond to it afterwards. So I don't shy away from things, even if I don't particularly look good in the light or something. It's good practice even just to try and answer it. I'm not like Hope Not Hate, who put up straw man arguments and then turn the comments off or anything like that. Okay, then. So thanks very much, everyone, and I'll look forward to next week. Well, I'm also looking forward to tomorrow, but thanks very much. Cheers. Oh, don't want to miss Shaz's comment out. Love you, Shaz. Take care, everyone. Cheers.